Hello, hello, welcome to today's video, and today I want to talk a little bit about the first story I ever wrote. And I've been a writer since the time I was 9 years old, as far as I can remember. And I remember when I was a kid, one of my favorite things to do was in my English classes when they'd say, write a story, whatever you want. I loved those moments because then I would create my own stories, and they'd be, really cheesy ones and that I'd write, I guess, and I was always very much encouraged by my parents to keep up my writing and improve my grammar skills and writing skills, so I always appreciated that. But the first story that I ever wrote was actually a fantasy. Believe it or not, it had to do with this. Okay, so first what happened was my brother and I came up with this world. And so the first thing that we did, we drew out this map, and we didn't have obviously like mapping paper that was like huge. So what we did, we got sheets of paper and we taped them together with invisible tape to make it look bigger. And then we made countries. And it was interesting because we made those countries and then we divided them up, saying like, this country is mine and I'm naming it this. And he would go, well, this country is mine and I'm naming it this. And we kind of like kings, like we were dividing the land that belonged to us. It was really cool. And then we put it up on our wall and it stayed there for years. Even when I went to college, it was still there about 6 years later. So it was really awesome to look at. Obviously, I mean, it's awesome for me. It was really rudimentary and like basic, I guess. But then we started writing, or I encouraged him to write with me. I don't think he really wanted to go the writing route the way I did, but I began writing a story based on the map that we had made. And I remember one of the countries was Sidora, and so the protagonist is this boy who lives in a parish, and one night he hears a sound and he kind of wakes up a little bit and sees this shadow looming over his bed, and suddenly the shadow grabs this sword and starts like hacking away at the boy, but the boy is too fast. He dodges, but the bed is totally destroyed. And so the boy stands up and he's got a dagger, and I don't know where he got this dagger from, and he starts fighting this attacker, this assassin. I don't know what a parish boy would do attacking an assassin, like being able to defend himself from an assassin with a dagger. It was very much fantastical. And then it turns out that this wizard saves the boy at the end because he ended up almost dying. And then it's like it becomes a hero's journey from that point on. It's like, oh, there's this war coming and you're like the hero, the chosen one. So fantasy was something that I gravitated towards naturally in terms of writing. But one thing that's interesting is that there were already some dark elements being brought in at that point. So, I mean, I didn't have to wait for my adult years to be totally screwed up to start having to write dark fantasy. I kind of started doing that as a kid. And that's about all I can remember from my first book, or the first story that I wrote. Apparently I wrote like 60 pages of it on paper, and my mom brought it, my mom lives in Mexico, and she brought it up to the States one time, and she was like, hey, I've got all your writings here, and some of the pages were missing, some of the pages were torn, some of them had also weather damage, but I had a lot of, I was like 23 pages that I actually could read and understand, because also I was starting to learn cursive at that time. No, I'm just kidding. I already knew cursive. I was 12 years old. And my handwriting is garbage for anybody that knows me. It's worse than a doctor's, or about as bad as a doctor's. So that was the story. I think after that, I don't think I really focused on writing. So one of the things that distracted me from finishing writing that story was film. I wanted to become a director when I went to college, and before that I had experience doing YouTube videos, and I'd made this YouTube series called Episodes of the Lost, and it was like a zombie pseudo survival-ish. It was just heavily dramatic and just so bad. It's terrible and cringy, and I think we did 12 episodes, official episodes, and I think the last episode had 4 parts to it that had to do with tying up all the loose ends and restarting time and going back to the future, stuff like that. It was very bad, but that was one of the things that really fueled me to continue pursuing film. which I did study in college, but then go back into writing stories, because film is heavily dependent on a group of people, whereas stories and writing, you can pretty much do that yourself if you're talented enough, if you're skilled enough, if you know what to do. You can just be a one-man army, basically. I mean, because that was really the one story I wrote for like 5 years. I was trying to write it. I was wanting to get it published, but I never actually got it finished. And by the time I went to college, I already had other projects and things that I wanted to do. So that was the first story that I ever wrote. What about you? What was the first story that you ever wrote? Do you remember it? And if so, tell me about it. I'd love to hear what stories you wrote before you actually got into writing, or if you're still writing, or even what's the status of that. What was the youngest you started writing? Please put in the comments down below. Also, if you're interested, I am an author already of the novel Nights Without Kings, which was released in December of last year. And you can check it out by clicking on the link down below. Also, put it on your calendars that October 9th of 2019, The Twin Princes will be released, which is a sequel to this novel, and I'm already excited. Honestly, the editing is finished. Now it's time for professional edit for the story, because I finished all of my personal edits for the book. So I'm really, really excited. And I'm also starting to write the third book. So, who knows? I'm not exactly sure when that one will come out, but I'm really pumped to get into it. All right, well, that does it for me for this week. And you have a fantastic day. Have a fantastic week. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy, okay? Be safe out there. Bye.